this this data system has been very thought out. It's been very, we took a lot of input from the field to really see what you all needed as we move forward, as this was already in place, but it just so happened at the same time that we've reimagined evaluation at the same time. So they both kind of coincided together, luckily, on their paths. And so we appreciate everyone who's been reaching out for giving us to help troubleshoot. As we know, nothing is perfect. And we've really been able to use your feedback and your screenshots and your input to really help us fix, whether there's bugs or whether something needs to be added or added to the list for next year. We really appreciate your feedback for that. And so on the next slide, I will do some brief introductions. So our leader, he is not here with us today, but that is Dr. Arthur Jofrion. He's the Deputy Assistant Superintendent of Educator Talent and Workforce Development. And then under him is our team, the Educator Preparation and Accountability. And then, so also on our team, we have Miss Lori Penison, who is our evaluation training policy guru, and then also Keisha Thomas, who is over our evaluation platform and data. And so you'll also meet some other members that we work with across the agency on this project throughout today. And so I'm going to turn it over to Miss Keisha Thomas to lead us through today. So thanks for joining.
Thanks, Rebecca. Again, thank you so much for joining this morning's webinar as we go through a general overview of the Louisiana Evaluation System, also known as LES. And so we'll go through some things and some features that allows you, some of you may also have a little background because you have been getting into the system with your employees. And for some of you, this may be a general overview for everything of what the system does. So again, today we will provide a general overview of the Louisiana evaluation system, which is part of the larger system, which is the Louisiana Educator Portal. And we will refer to the Louisiana Evaluation System as LES today. Feel free to place questions in the chat as the questions will be added to the development of a FAQ document. We will answer as many as we can today. And if not, the questions will be emailed to the participants today of any answers for questions that may not be able to get answered. Today's webinar is informational to gain knowledge of how staff rosters are pre-populated and overall features of the system. Again, we will email any answers to questions that are not answered over the next couple of days, but we will also be able to email the slide deck to the participants for today. LES is a comprehensive data system that will hold all evaluation data for an individual. Rosters pre-populate from EdLink. Following a refresh, individuals are automatically transferred as they move system, and data will follow. System-level contacts have administrator access, and these contacts are able to perform similar tasks and monitoring entry. Evaluators and evaluatees will enter data throughout the school year, such as observation scores, any conference scores, self-assessments, coaching plans, enter and rate SLTs. This data is entered throughout the year, and this eventually the system will be able to have the capability to send reminders, and the data is calculated ongoing. The system supports full process and policy. Because of this, all data will be entered manually, and there will no longer be a spreadsheet upload. CIS is no longer the data system for evaluation.
Keisha, looks like you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure how that happened. All right. I'll just start this slide over. CIS is no longer the data system for evaluations. LES has replaced the Compass Information System, such as Compass, or approved alternate observation tools. Rather than transitioning to leads, data will still be entered into LES. There will be no spreadsheet uploads, nor will EE-Pass roll into the new data system. This comprehensive data system allows for both evaluators and teachers to access their evaluation data in real time by entering observations, complete SLTs, etc. LES allows for various tasks to be completed by evaluators, teachers, counselors, and school leaders. You can go to the next slide, Lori. So as we see from the table here, this table shows all the various tasks that evaluators, teachers, counselors, and school leaders are able to do within the data system, LES. For evaluators are able to enter pre-conference dates, formal observation scores, end of year and middle of year conference scores, provide those reinforcement and refinement areas and evidence, as well as post-conference dates. Teachers are able to enter self-assessment scores, reinforcement and refinement areas, and evidence as well. And the same goes for our counselors and school leaders. As you go through this table and look at this table, as you can see, the major difference here is that all are able to enter self-assessment scores. So there are important steps that the LES contact must take before attempting to access LES. Skipping or any of these steps or trying to access the system could result in errors or issues. With us, who will go through some of these steps with us. David is the Executive Director, Systems Optimization and Governance over in our Office of Assessments, Accountability, and Analytics. So I'll turn it over to David at this time to give some information about this access checklist.
Thank you, Keisha. Good morning, everybody. So yeah, I'm just going to go over a few of the different steps that you have to take to make sure that you get into the system and don't run into. I know y'all have probably seen a few different error messages up to this point. We're working to ensure that those occur less frequently, and yeah, just working through all those different little bugs. But to start, we want to make sure our eScholar staff record and 360 staff extract are up to date. With our current staffing, current staff assignments to different site locations. Those can be updated live. Those all those uploads can be made daily, however you want to get that information. But the sooner those databases reflect the current situation with your school site, the sooner every person gets into the system successfully. uh, every individual needs to create, every educator, a Mila account. This will be your account not only for even LWE systems, but systems across the state are going to be migrating to using the Mila account. So we suggest that when you create your Mila, you use a personal email or an email that will not fluctuate with your school site assignment. If you do use a district email, it's not an issue. But before you set part ways with that district or migrate to another district, you make sure that that email has been changed on that Mila account. We try to keep everyone just using the same account for their, existence in using all of the systems that the state provides. The next step is going to be your EdLink user profile. From there, you'll be going through the EdLink Ops portal to enter some information to ensure that the staff record that was created in eScholar matches up to your created Mila account. And from there, you will go into EdLink security. We'll get into the roles and permissions in a bit here, but that would be how you can get to all of the different education systems, LEP included. You get to that once everything's connected there, you get into LEP, and it should have all of your staff information, any evaluations done, and that access and information will be available in all systems. There's a few different points that we have to make sure get connected, but once they are, it should be fairly seamless. All right, thank you, Lori. And we have several guides that have been created. But that we'll have these either these slides or these links sent out after the presentation. That you can use to walk through the creation of these different accounts. There are FAQs in all of these common issues, common bugs you may run into when you're trying to create the account. Oftentimes, your eScholar staff record will be created by your administration, and you're just going to be pairing up to that record that already exists. So if you do go to get to a point in like the EdLink Ops portal, you enter your information, you hit submit, you get a message that says, a near match is flag has been placed on your submission. Your eScholar administrator will go through and resolve those near matches to make sure that only one person is getting, or rather, the person submitting is getting their correct staff record. Yeah, and like I said before, your Mila account is going to be your key to getting into all of these systems. You'll log into EdLink security with that, and then go on into the other LDOE systems. Let's see. Yeah, and I think that covers just about everything I had there. So we can get into the rostering process here. Lori, we can go. Thank you. So the staff rosters in LES are derived from the 360 site assignments. So there's a couple different things to keep in mind as we're assigning people to different sites. Does the site have all of the data a regular school would? There are alternative sites that may not have the full breadth of data that a standard school site would have. If someone is assigned to those, that's okay. We are working to ensure we cover all cases. Currently, we covered the majority, but there are always, there's edge cases that may exist in the data that you report them. If someone's still having issues after taking all these steps to ensure they have the correct access and they're still having some issue here or there, feel free to report it to us and we will figure out a path forward for them. And on to some common issues here we've seen. Um, since we started back in, I started this school year, location assignments can sometimes be missing or incorrect. And most of the time, locally, the school will have that person on their roster and they'll, removed or added otherwise. But maybe they've come on after October 1st and they haven't been reported in 360 because there's concerns about auditing, financial purposes, all that sort of thing. But that 360 does have the option for reports specifically around that October 1st date that you can use to ensure that you're able to just upload your live data as often as possible, so that the data we're able to work off of can get you can get you the correct access for your educators. The name not matching, displaying incorrectly. A lot of times we see people that, yes, their first and last name will be matching everywhere, but in Mila especially, there is not a designated suffix field. But people will add their suffix to their last name. And then every other system after it, trying to read that last name, thinks it's a different last name just because it's in the last name field. So we want to make sure we're just entering the first or last name in fields, unless there's a field like I believe in eScholar there are fields that let you enter suffix and that sort of thing. You will be uniquely identified regardless if you don't have your suffix in Mila. I've heard those concerns as well, but that's not an issue. Social security number, sometimes they're just a typo, or possibly when you're taking one of these steps in account creation, your browser has an autofill that may have run from someone else using the computer or this, that, or the other. We just want to make sure always, verify your data before you hit submit. That's always good to make sure, that's nothing got overwritten by anything automatic. And then lastly, email verification. For staff, for anyone assigned to a school site, we're collecting their staff, your staff email is collected in those reports. Oops, sorry about that. There's let's see. Sorry, cut out for me for a second. Yeah. Okay. So yes, your staff record, when you make all those links together from the various data sources, eScholar and your Mila and 360, that data, you won't need to verify your email. That you've already been verified as a person. There will be a multi-factor authentication in place, but once you're signed in, you should not need to verify your email. Yeah, that's what I have there. Thank you. All right. Mila account specifically. There are it is a majority self-service system, just due to the scale of what it's looking to achieve. So once you create your account, there's not a whole lot of support for an account if something were to happen, to like if you lose access to it entirely. So that's why we try to keep everything updated as far as email, even name goes, because if that name changes in any one of those three locations, there can be issues. So we want to make sure our names are up to date. We want to make sure our emails are up to date on those accounts. But in the case where, say, you lose access to a email and you hadn't changed it on the account, if you still have the login for that account, you can go in, you can sign directly into Mila and change that contact email to whatever email you want, really. But if you want to change to the district email, that's no problem. And then you can, you'll have the email you have access to there. If you lose the login, but you still have the email, you can use the email recovery method. If you lose both, that's no problem. We can still work with that as well. You create that second Mila account. We're going to go into your eScholar administrator is going to go in and change that username on your staff record. And as long as the first name and last name and that username matches in eScholar, and 360 as well, it'll inherit that previous account in the system. Um, and then LDOE will take that original account that's not recoverable, disable it in NetLink security to prevent logins and access to the systems otherwise. Yeah, and we'll make sure that that new account has all the access the old one did. Yep. And that last point there was just another FAQ that dives deeper into some of the more insular issues you may run into in Milo. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, David, so much. Many of you who are on, and if you've spoken or had a support call, and we've been trying to help you with whether it's Myler, EdLink, or what have you. David is my colleague here that I have to collaborate with to help get you up and running there. So thanks again, David, for providing that information with us today. Now, what we're going to do is take a look at the two types of roles within LES. The LES updater role is for users who will be making modifications to evaluations. That's for those who assign evaluators and those who are required to see evaluation data. Some examples would be anyone like in your human resources department, any district data coordinators, and potentially principals. The LES view role is for users who need the ability to enter evaluations, verify evaluations being completed, and those that need to see evaluation data. This role, keep in mind, and many of you know this, is that even though it says view, it's not a read-only type role. The view role does allow for evaluators to be able to enter evaluations. Also, keep in mind, teachers do not need to request permission, but they must have an active EdLink security account and be included in both the eScholar staff file and the EdLink 360 staff file extract. Note that the roles assigned is a system level decision for what you would like your system level leaders and your school level leaders to be able to have. This is the screen that many of you have seen that you get to when you are requesting permissions, because many of you went through this process to request permissions for even for yourself. And upon clicking the permission request button, you are prompted to select update or view as the role. And you could advise your employees within your system to contact you or the LES system contact to ensure that the correct permission is being requested. Keep in mind the proper permission request is a school system decision. Evaluators have to be assigned in order to begin the whole process of going into LES and for your principals being able to start accessing the system. So we're going to talk about, setting those assigning and setting those default evaluators, assigning those default evaluators. And a default evaluator must be selected for an evaluation record to start to be created. LES looks for an evaluator in the following order. They look at that educator record, then they look at that default school evaluator, and then that default district evaluator. Default evaluators are selected from a drop down, and system level leads are able to assign evaluators from the drop down list of evaluators. For systems who are continuing the legacy system, such as Compass or approved alternate rubric, we will need a list of certified evaluators so that we can be able to mark as certified. And many of you who are using legacy systems are able to do that. Once evaluators have logged into LES, there will be a listing to choose from on the left as featured here. And the next slide shows that for designated observers, that local school systems are able to designate additional observers, and many of you are aware of that, to help inform the evaluator of teacher performance. And Bulletin 130 continues to allow that to happen by designating those observers to assist in informing these evaluation practices. And some of those may be instructional coaches or mentor teachers, master teachers that can assist in conducting observations. Many of these people have attended training, and we want to keep in mind that they are required to attend training and pass the certification assessment before observing. Observers conducting observations is one part of the full evaluation. The assigned evaluator is the person who will enter the observation ratings. So we want to keep that in mind. Whoever the assigned evaluator is the person that will enter the ratings into the data system and finalize the full evaluation. Only the principal or assistant principal should rate educators on the professionalism survey. Many of you have also seen that tab for adding additional evaluators. And this feature is only available to the school system updater or district updater. And this is where you are able to add those additional evaluators who may be having to evaluate employees across school sites. And this screen shows where that adding additional evaluators button is. And after you click the additional evaluators tab, then the next screen comes up. And this system selection is displayed for your school system. And this is where you would put the first and last name of the person that you're wanting to add as an additional evaluator. And then you press submit. Some of you have had to go through this process of adding those additional evaluators, but this is what that particular screen looks like. And then once you press submit, you're able to, which is showed on the next screen here, you're able to click add evaluator. And that person would then be able populate when adding as an evaluator for a designated site. So again, this is for like sometimes I know from speaking with many of you, you've had certain circumstances or situations where you may have some system leaders or supervisors who are needing to be part of the evaluation process across school sites. For the next one, we're going to look into changing the max score for legacy systems. And this is for any system that is using a legacy system such as Compass or an alternate rubric. So here on this next slide, this is where we would go through those steps in changing that max score, because keep in mind, if you are using that legacy system, such as Compass, which is the 4-point, instead of transitioning to leads, the system has the LER already populated in there with that max score being 5. So a legacy rubrics have to be changed. The max score would have to be changed. And this is just showing a screenshot of that particular screen where that update evaluation max score is located in the top right corner. And by clicking that update evaluation max score button, that allows you to select multiple educators at one time to be able to change that max score. And on the next screen is a screenshot of selecting multiple users to do that for those educators that need to have a max score changed from 5 to 4. And you would select those names of the persons that you're wanting to do that. On the next screen, it shows that we're going to place that max score in the box where we put that 4 in, and we confirm the names that we selected, and we press save. And that allows us to be able to then, have changed from that 5 point uh, max score to the 4 point. Okay. So many of you have inquired about reports, and a variety of reports will be available throughout the school year. Some of them are going to be similar to some CIS reports, and some will be some enhanced reports. School and system leaders will be able to run reports that will be helpful in analyzing teacher observation data across grade levels, content areas, or by even reinforcement or refinement areas. Reports are forthcoming and being worked on, and they should be available in the next month or so. As always, there are additional resources that are available for you to refer to. And when you receive the copy of this slide deck, all of those links are linked in that slide deck that may be helpful for you to refer to at any time that you may need. You can also visit the Leeds Library. I know the website, has had some rebranding and it looks different, but the Leeds Library is there and those resources are housed. If you have error-related issues for MILA or EdLink, those are specific account issues or errors, please contact system support at la.gov with a detailed explanation of the error, a screenshot if you have it, and the name and site code of the individual experiencing that MILA or EdLink error. And if you have any additional related questions or you would like to set up a support call at any time, please email leads@la.gov. And we thank you so much for joining us today. If you would ensure that your name and school system is in the chat or your email address is in the chat. So that way, when we pull this, we're able to send you directly, even though it's going to be placed in the library, we're able to email you this slide deck, a copy of today's slide deck, along with those links that were referenced here in the call today that would be beneficial for you. Anybody, maybe from your school system who wasn't able to join, the recording will be located in the Leeds Library as well. So you can always refer that link to your colleagues that maybe couldn't join us today as it relates to the recording for today's webinar. Feel free to share the webinar information for tomorrow. Tomorrow's webinar is geared towards school leaders, and during that webinar, we will go more into creating observations, putting those in, SLTs, self-assessments, linking coaching plans, and all those steps that your school leaders take on their side for LES. So feel free to share that, or if you want to hop on again tomorrow at 1 o'clock for tomorrow's session of the webinar. Again, thank you for joining us today, and I see people are placing their information in the chat so that you can get this information.